Hi there, welcome to Transport and Trailer Sales. Today I'll be walking you through your 2022 Coachmen Freedom Express. We are just going to start off the back of the unit. If you notice up top, you're pre-mounted for an observation camera. If you'd like to get set up with that, you can just contact the parts department. You also got your ladder so you can get up to your roof nice and easily to check all your seals periodically. And then right at the back, you get your hot water service port. Cracking this guy open. Lower it down, hit that pressure release valve. There should be that shot of water coming out of there, letting you know that the tank's full and safe to fire up. If you don't see that shot of water coming out of there, the tank's probably not full, probably wouldn't be safe to fire up. There is the risk that you burn it out while firing it empty. So again, we don't want to do that. Just make sure you see that shot of water coming out of there. You got your 1.1/8" drain bolt right down here at the bottom. That's pretty much all you need to worry about inside here. Right next to it, to my left, you are going to see that you got your city water connection up here on the wall. So if you're at a site with service, you can just thread a garden hose in there, turn it on. It's going to pressurize all your lines without the need to run your water pump. In both sides of the bumper cap, pulling on the tube, pulling on the cap, that'll give you access to the inside of the tube. That's where you're going to want to first store your sewer hose after your first use. We have a brand new one located inside the front compartment, so there's currently not one in there now. You got your stabilizer jacks. You do have one in all four corners of this unit. The way they work is you hook up your 3/4 inch drive tool, run these feet down to the ground. Once the feet do contact the ground, just giving another 1/8 turn to snug it up. It's going to take any bounce or sway you see we have in the unit right now away. In addition to that, they are stabilizing jacks. They're not leveling jacks. Please don't try and use them as so, otherwise you do run the risk of bending them. And then of course, if you're running them up or down with an impact, just be mindful of how much torque you put on them, as they do bend pretty easily. Now right down below here, right below the floor, you got your 2 low point drains. So if you don't want water going stale or stagnant, that's a good way to empty all the water out of the lines. And then of course, at your end of your winterization process, it's always a good idea to remove those and allow the system to drain as much as possible. So again, once it starts gelling up during those cold winter months, it has room to expand inside the tube. If we come to our left, you get your main sewer outlet right here. Take that cap, twist it off. Your sewer hose is going to have the same ears, twist and lock on like so. You got your black valve on your right, your gray valve on your left. You always want to empty your black valve on your right first. This will be your dirtiest water filled from your toilets, and then you can come behind that to gray valve on your left, which is typically a little cleaner water filled from your sinks and your showers. Up top, you got 2 cable satellite hookups, and then of course you got a black tank flush. It's always a good idea to use that black tank flush after every couple of uses. And of course, if you're noticing false monitor panel readings or just odor around the unit, that's going to be a good way to flush out that tank, keeping things that little bit cleaner. But it is very important that you read the caution sticker. It's letting you know that you do have to have the valve open, which means you have to have your sewer connected. The reason being, if you're pushing pressure inside of the tank and the pressure's got nowhere to go, it could expand that tank to the point of cracking. You get your exterior shower, it's just going to open up with your standard 751 key, or that black key that's on your keychain. Then you got your 30 amp twist lock connection. You just take a note of that notch on this side. It lines up with this notch on this side. Press that into place, 8th turn to lock it in, and then you got that threaded collar to really lock it down. If you follow that cord back, you do have your standard 30 amp plug-in. Now, most campsites in Manitoba should have it. You can plug right on in and you're good to go, but let's say your campsite only has 15 amp service, which is your standard household outlet, or you just want to plug the unit at home, plug the unit in at home to run your fridge. We do include that 15 amp park adapter, which just keep it in mind whenever you are using it. You're going down in power, so you're not going to be able to run something like your air conditioner. It's really just to run your fridge and your lights. Coming a little more further up ahead, you get your fresh water fill. So this is going to be how you fill your fresh tank, whether you're siphoning water in or pushing it in with the garden hose. You throw it in there, and then right down below the floor, you do get that white valve. That's going to be how you drain your fresh tank. Pull the valve, drains all the water that's inside the tank. Inside here, this is going to be the first side of your storage compartment. Lift it open to the top, click it into place. So we're going to find your standard starter kit. It comes with a 15-foot sewer hose, 15-foot water hose, 10-foot sewer hose, some other miscellaneous goodies, including that 15 amp park adapter. Now for winterization, if you were doing it yourself, you just have to remove this one screw here, take this panel right out of the way. It would give you access to that water pump for winterization. Coming around to the front of the unit, you got your battery disconnect switch in the wall. With it in the on position like it is now, the batteries are connected to the unit. If you were to turn that to the off position, the batteries become disconnected from the unit. Battery located inside this box here, and then underneath this cover, you got your 2 standard propane tanks. Most of the time, loosen those knobs, flip this up, and get what you need done from right up top. But for the purpose of the video, I'll slide it right out of the way. Remove a tank to fill it up. You get your selector valve right on the front here with it pointed to this tank. You're obviously drawing off this tank, so you get counterclockwise, like any standard barbecue, nice and slowly, to open up the flow of propane to the unit. Now, if this tank were to go empty, you just have to close it, flip it over to the other side, open up this tank, and then you can remove this one and get it filled up while you're drawing off this one. Tongue jack right at the front, and then around this side, you get the other side of that storage compartment. You get the mount for your griddle, as well as your griddle way at the back there. Propane quick connect line, you can get a little table that connects onto the side, and then of course you get this 3/4 inch drive tool for those stabilizer jacks. Entryway door. This channel here is going to be where both your griddle and your little table can mount onto. It's got the corresponding channel. Inside here, you're probably wondering what it is. It is just a service port for your fridge. There's not really anything you need to worry about inside of there. And if you go down right below the floor here, you get your propane quick connect line coming out right over here. So that's where you would want to run that. Pull back like any standard airline and insert the brass coupler, opening up the flow of propane. As an added safety feature, you can't operate that coupler with the flow of propane open, so you do have to close it. And then in this last storage compartment, you get your little exterior kind of kitchen area. This right here does pull out of the way. You're just having to grab that latch, pull it out of the place, pull this sink towards you. Once you get it in place, you can then lock both sides in. It's important that you do both, that way you're evenly holding it. You got both locked. It's locked into place. Cutlery spot down here, sink, hot and cold water. Then you do have a 110 mini fridge. Now this does only work when you're hooked up to shore power, so keep that in mind. It's not 12 volt. Now to get inside, you can just take this assist handle, push it up, hold it at 90 degrees. It's going to lock it into place. That'll allow you to open up the door. You do have to open your door all the way for you to be able to get the stairs down. Get the stairs down, pull it on the handle. They're going to start coming down towards you. You do have adjustable feet, so you can have nice level stairs for your campsite. You're just having to pull the pins out and drop into the corresponding spots. Once that's down, when you're getting the stairs sit down, it's always good to have this black plate as flush to this bottom catch bracket as you can, so that way this door can close in and open and close freely and not going to bind or rub. Now, if you take a step on inside, first thing you notice off on the right is that fire extinguisher, which is just like home. Pull the pin and shoot. And now over on the wall here, we're going to have a lot of different things going on. Tons of storage space. Now, whenever you're using the storage in this unit, just be mindful of drains, water lines, and wiring. You're not going to be wanting to affect any of that at all with your things. A couple different plugins, USB as well. Stereo for the unit, pretty much self-explanatory, minus the fact of having zone A and zone B. Zone A will be for your interior speakers, zone B will be for your exterior speakers. And then down below, of course, you have your monitor panel system. You cannot fire up that water heater on either gas or electric. If you do fire it up on gas, you gotta make sure that you purge the system first. I'm gonna go over purging once we do get to our stove. And if you fire it up on electric, you just hit that switch. But of course, with electric, it's very important that you make sure that tank is full. Even a few seconds with it fired up with no water in the tank could burn out the probe, so keep that in mind. If you go to fire it up on gas, the water heater is going to try lighting itself 3 times at this point. If on the 3rd try it doesn't light, this fault light's going to stay on. At that point, you do just have to turn this off, give it about 2 minutes, and then try turning it back on. Again, it could be a purging issue. Pushing the button tells you the corresponding levels of all the tanks. And then you got, of course, all your different lights. Living room light, entryway light, which turns on the little porch light outside, the orange porch light. Then you got an awning LED light switch. And then, of course, we have some accent lighting, which lights up some accent lighting around the unit. Then you have your awning control. To get the awning out, you're just pushing and holding that extend button. The awning's going to start rolling forward. Now, unfortunately, today, we're not going to be able to get the awning to its full extension. You'll know it was at its full extension. You see the metal flap come down over the back of the metal tube. Now, sometimes that flap can get stuck, so you might have to retract it a couple feet and roll it back out again to get that flap to come down. Now, if it were to start raining, you can take any arm, front or rear. Make sure these are loose. Pull in on it. It's going to change the pitch of the awning head once you tighten it. It'll hold there, and it's going to allow water to now drain off. Now, of course, if you like that angle better, you can do the same thing with the front arm, and it's going to allow for more shade underneath. just making sure that you do release both sides back to their natural resting positions and leave them a little loose for when you go to bring the awning in. That way you don't run the risk of bending anything. And when, of course, you have the awning out, always have in the back of your mind that once the wind speeds start picking up, it's very important that you do close it. Some people run them open all the time and don't worry about it, but it doesn't take much for a good chunk of wind to come by and either bend your arms or rip your fabric. To get it in, it's just as simple as holding the retract button. It's going to start rolling its way in. Once it contacts the side of the trailer, the motors will automatically cut out. Now you're going to note this little stick here. It says, please note, make sure your stabilizer jacks are down before operating the slide out mechanism. So it's very important. These slide outs like being rolled in and out whenever you're level. So again, try and have the unit level and the stabilizer jacks down before you run your slide out. And then of course, also before you run your slide out, I know on the other side, it's going to be pretty difficult to get to, but it's always a good idea to do a quick visuals check on the inside to make sure that nothing shifted during travel and that's going to get caught in between your slide out and the wall, causing any damage. And of course, on the outside, just make sure you do have enough room to go all the way out. Once you do that, you can just push that out button. Slide out's going to start making its way out. I always try to be visual as it's rolling out, making sure it's going nice and even and straight, not hearing any weird noises or cracking. And once the slide out does reach the extension, you're going to hear the motors wind up and click. So you heard the clicking, so you're not at your full extension. All the blinds in the unit do work the same way. They just kind of sit where you leave them, all the way up to go all the way up. You got a Murphy style bed in here, so it works pretty standard. You can just out of the way for a second, pull in the foot of the couch. That does allow that couch to fold down at that point. You can undo your travel straps from your Murphy bed. If you got the bed up, it's always important that you latch it into place, otherwise it's going to probably fall on your head. And then your bed folds down. Nice big curtain right at the front, black it out. Then to get it back all up, it's just the total opposite, of course. Now again, you're going to have tons of storage in here. Again, just being mindful of drains, water lines, and things like that. Not going to be wanting to affect any of it. There's going to be lots of plugins all throughout here too as well. Then to get the bed, the couch back up, you just got to kind of grab the system back to place. It folds right in. This is going to be the fire exit for the unit. You just got to grab that red tab, pull it, the screen's going to pop right out of place. At that point, you can take this handle, push it, pop on out of the unit. Of course, trying to go feet first, but if there is a fire, just trying to get out as quickly as possible. Little extendable counter space that just snaps into place and then snaps. You got your dinette here. Now you do have 2 bunk beds at the back, which are double bunks, nice and spacious. In case you had extra guests, this does fold down into a table. You're just having to come below the table, unlock it from its latches, fold the bottom legs down, set the tabletop on its desired ledges. Then you can take your back cushions to fill in the center, and you would have yourself another bed for somebody to use. In your kitchen area, pretty standard. Now you're going to notice you got your gas stove. Now with that, this unit is equipped with gas, of course. Furnace, stove. Right down below, we got our LP detector right there near the ground. If that guy ever starts going off, don't panic. Just turn off the main supply of propane at the front of the unit and open up some windows and vents to get some fresh oxygen inside of here. In this back corner here, by the way, if you push on that tab, pull it up, it has a little power bar, which I thought was kind of cool. TV right on the wall here, mounted, of course. And then right above it, you got these 2 coax outlets, and I know it's going to be hard to see on the camera, but right behind the one front outlet there, there's this little black button, turns the green light on. That's supplying power to the antenna on the roof. Now that's also going to improve radio frequency and cell phone frequency, so I typically recommend leaving it on whenever you're camping, but trying to remember to turn it off whenever you're not using it because it does draw battery power. Stove, microwave, range hood. Again, I always recommend running your range hood whenever you're running your stove. That way you're evacuating those propane fumes as you're making them. And we will go over firing the stove here quickly. Now, when it comes to the propane system, whenever you turn the system off at the front of the unit or take off one of the bottles, it does allow air into the system. Once air does make its way in, it does have to be purged out. Quickest, easiest way to do that is going to be by running your stove, and that's just because you get to decide how long the gas runs for and how many sequences you try and light it for. It can take a few minutes, so you do have to be patient with it sometimes. And the reason I say that is because if you go to try to fire up your water heater or your furnace without first firing the stove, it might not light the first time, it might throw a fault code, and it could throw a little wrench into your weekend if you didn't know what that means. Maybe panic a little bit. We want to keep your camping experience great, so I always recommend running your stove first thing. It just helps purge that system that little bit. But whenever doing so, of course, because it's a gas stove, of course, being safe. If you're ever running this gas valve on, always making sure you're hitting that sparker every few seconds, just so that if there was to be a buildup of gases, it gets lit right away and it doesn't hold off. Because if you're not hitting that igniter every few seconds, if there's a buildup of gases, there could be a minor combustion. If your face was nearby, you're probably going to lose some eyebrows and eyelashes. Again, it's not very common, but it does happen sometimes, especially if somebody were to forget this on or bump it on without you noticing. Don't try and light it because it will combust. Try and ventilate it out first and then try lighting it to see how it goes. But for the purging method, again, this is going to be your best bet. You get the oven to light. It could take a little bit longer. It did light pretty quick today just because I had the system running earlier. Sometimes it can take a few minutes, but to get the stove to light, push, hold it on the pilot. You're seeing right now, hit that igniter a few times now, and it's not lighting right away. Again, purging issue. That's why I always recommend running your stove and your oven. Once that pilot light lights like it does down below, and you don't have to hold the button in, you can turn it up to your desired temperature and it does fire right on up. You also have an oven light as well as some illumination knobs. Fridge here, of course, noticing you got another travel strap. Make sure that's latched, so that way when you are driving down the road, your fridge isn't flying open and throwing cans and food everywhere. Fridge freezer, controls for the freezer up top. Obviously, colder is the coldest, cold is the warmest. Down below, you got all your different settings. Coldest being number 5, warmest being number 1, holding it for 20 seconds. We'll turn it on and off using that button. Whenever you do have this on, the fridge and freezer on for a while, a weekend of course, let's say, and now you're leaving the unit for a month or 2 weeks, if you're firing down the front, if you're turning this off, it's always a good idea to move this strap over to the left whenever you park the unit and allow these fridge doors to stay open with some towels inside, because there is going to be condensation that builds up, and if you allow it to build up too much, it's going to cause the growth of mold or mildew, which is gross. So again, just be kind of cautious about that whenever you're firing things down for a trip. Right below that, you get your fuse and breaker panel. Whenever a breaker trips, it'll sit in the middle, so you just have to turn it off and then back on again to reset it, and all your corresponding fuses will be up top. Bunk bed's pretty self-explanatory. They got plug-ins and lights, of course. You got nice cabinet set here for some storage. Then on the wall, you do get your control, your thermostat for the unit, how you're going to fire up everything. Couple different options though. For your furnace, there is only one fan setting, and it's going to move all its air through the floor portals you have throughout the unit. And the air conditioner, multiple different fan settings. And you can also run these louvers closed, in which case it's going to use the ceiling ducting to move the air, or you can open these up and it's called a quick dump. It's going to dump all its air into this main living space. So whatever you prefer is how you can leave it. This little filter here, you just have to pull in these tabs. The screen's going to pop, this plastic guard's going to pop right down. At that point, you can take that black screen off, spray it out with some compressed air. It is the intake vent for the air conditioner. So sometimes it's going to get dusty, and to keep the flow moving well, it's always a good idea to keep that nice and clean. Now on the wall, push the mode button. You're going to first go to your fan. Now that's just moving air around using the air conditioner. There's no heating or cooling involved. You got high fan and low fan. One more time, you're going to go into cool. Now, once we did go into cool here, you can use your temperature buttons up and down to change your set temperature, but that is only going to work if you have the auto setting there. If you push the button twice, you're going to see you can run that fan on either high or low, but that fan will run full time regardless of what you have the room set to until you manually turn it off. And that can also run you an issue if you had the air conditioner running, it got too cold in here, now you want to fire up the furnace to warm it up a little bit because it's late at night. If you don't have that auto setting on, it is going to turn on both the air conditioning fan and the furnace fan. So again, I recommend leaving it in the auto setting. That way when it does hit your set temperature that you desire, kills the air conditioner, you're not running it for no reason. One more time, it's going to kill your air conditioner, fire up your furnace. Your furnace runs off propane. Again, being pre-purged is going to help for it lighting easily. Whenever you turn it off, it runs for an additional 3 minutes to allow itself to cool down. Pushing the mode button one more time cycles you back over to off. Now for the bathroom, pretty spacious bathroom, which is nice. The light switch is on the left. Right above my head, you do get a vent lid. Turning that clockwise opens up the vent lid. Now if you're gonna notice, you open straight up into the atmosphere. So if it were to start raining, it would get wet inside of here. Unless, of course, you went with a max air cover, it plops over top of here. It's going to protect you from getting wet inside. And then if you did forget this open during travel, don't have to worry about it damaging itself from the wind because you got that cover on there. Again, if you'd like to get set up with that, just contact your parts department. They'd be more than happy to help you out. Switch for the fan is on that one corner there. And then other than that, it's your pretty standard bathroom, minus the fact that you're having your main GFI plug on the wall. You got reset on the left, reset on the right, test on the left. If you ever have an outlet that doesn't work, a majority of the plugs in this unit are going to run through the GFI. It can trip sometimes for the weirdest reasons, so just make sure that it isn't tripped. That is going to be it for this unit here. If you have any other questions, feel free to give us a call.